Hello guys and welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be giving France an empire. So recently we've done some other ones, a German, a UK, Turkey, USA, and Canada I'm pretty sure. But today it is France's turn. Around the same time the UK had their empire, France had a lot of land down here in Africa. They had some land, I guess, in North and South America. They used to have land like Quebec and Louisiana. Well, not this Louisiana, this entire region. The USA bought it off of them. France also used to own Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia. I mean, not much else than that, but their African colony was huge. And today they're going to be remaking an empire, not the same one, but an even stronger one. The first declaration of war is on Luxembourg. Honestly, I'm not going to bother mapping it. It would be pretty easy for France to take over this small nation. Honestly, they just send in a few thousand troops and Luxembourg surrenders. Next up is going to be a bit more interesting, but it's still going to be pretty simple. It's just going to be French troops pushing into Belgium, capture the coast, Wallonia falls, Brussels falls, and Belgium surrenders. With that, their next fight is going to be against the Netherlands. But once again, this is going to be their hardest one yet, but still not to the point where they wouldn't be able to win. So France declares war on the Netherlands and begins to send in its military across the border. Its main focus being across the coast, with the capturing of Rotterdam and the push towards Amsterdam. With that, they encircle a large portion of troops from the Netherlands that were trying to hold off the border so France couldn't break through. They all fall, and with the fall of Amsterdam and all of their coast, the Netherlands surrenders. With that, France once again annexes the country. And, well, those are their three weakest neighbors, but they can definitely expand some more. So, where do they go next? That's actually a good question, but I'm pretty sure we all know who it is. Their options are the UK, Germany, Spain, Italy, Switzerland. Also, forgot to color in French Guiana, but we're not going to get to that part yet. First, their border growth. And the country they're going to be declaring war on is Switzerland. Now, if you didn't know, Switzerland is a very mountainous and very well-defended country. It would be incredibly difficult for France to take over. But in this scenario, it is France's weakest neighbor, technically. So it is going to be the country they declare war on. And honestly, as I've just been talking here, this has been like 3 months of progress. So a few things I should probably have mentioned earlier are that, one, in this scenario, alliances do not exist. So attacking Belgium and the Netherlands and Luxembourg didn't start NATO. Bern is captured, and an encirclement is made. Another thing is that this is alternate future. In this scenario, France has a different government. So no, the French would not do this in real life. They're not trying to remake their empire. This is just me making them one. With that, after a few months of fighting, probably close to a year, Switzerland finally falls to France, and France annexes the country. Where do they go next? Well, they go down to Italy. Oh my god, I also forgot to color in Corsica. Of course, I forgot to color in Corsica. So, with that, they declare war on Italy, and this is probably going to be their first real difficult challenge yet. So, they begin to flood troops down from Switzerland, as they had been fighting for the past year in the country. So, they had a lot of troops there. Italy does begin to push back, but not to the point where France has to worry about it. And French troops encircle a bit of the Italian military while taking a lot of northern Italy, I want to say. The only Italian progress made is capturing the island of Corsica, which, to be honest with you, won't last very long. With that, France continues their campaign into northern Italy, cutting off the other half, destroying any armies that are there, and beginning to push down the peninsula. In the beginning, it's a broad front, But slowly France begins to focus on the coastline, aiming for Rome. With that, they go back to Corsica, take the island. They then push down into Sardinia and capture that island as well, using their superior navy to the Italians. Oh my god. With that, they continue to push down the Italian peninsula until eventually the Battle of Rome happens. France wins. Italy, I don't know if they would surrender yet. They still have some pretty large cities, but they see no hope and surrender. With that, this is the first time where I'm actually going to have to draw up a peace treaty, because France can't just annex all of Italy. That's a bit too much, France. With that, they decide to leave Rome in the hands of Italy, but take about half the country and set up a puppet regime in the other half. They also take the island of Sardinia. So once again, this is a puppet nation, or just overall controlled by France, but it wasn't actually annexed. And that's another thing I should mention. Some of these things are just going to be controlled territories, not annexed. They might have influence over some regions, such as North Africa. Well, they'll take that eventually. The Balkans, the Nordics. They'll have control over the region, just not actual annexation. They then actually decide that they made a deal basically with Austria, where Austria gave up a bit of land along the border in return for not being invaded, and a bit of money. Not a whole ton, as the prospect of not being killed as a nation was probably enough to get Austria to give up the land, but France did still compensate slightly. With that, it's kind of border gorish over here. That's going to be fixed with the declaration of war on Germany, which is going to be another pretty difficult war, but France should be able to win it. With that, they begin to send troops up from Italy, where their last war was. This goes incredibly successfully, as they take a lot of economically rich Bavaria. They then begin to send troops all across the border, and Germany's hope isn't very high. With that, a stalemate is reached, and a few months pass. So, what happens next? Basically just French troops flooding in from all sides. All of southern Germany falls. Bavaria does as well. And the push for Hamburg is made. This goes successfully as the city is captured, along with the majority of Germany's coastline. With that, one last spearhead is made for Berlin. The city is captured, and Germany surrenders. Now, for one more peace treaty, it should make the borders nicer. Hopefully, at least. They take, I want to say, about half the country. But, Germany will survive. Italy will too. They have Rome and a lot of their southern cities. While Germany still has Berlin, Hamburg. It's a bit more than East Germany once was. And they'll do just fine like that. With that, once again, France has a puppet regime in this region that they didn't annex of Germany. Once again, they have control over it. Just because they didn't annex a territory doesn't mean they completely gave it independence to do whatever it wants against France. So yeah, it really looks like Napoleonic borders again, just probably even a bit better. You know where Napoleon had land that France currently doesn't, though? Spain. They used to have a little bit over here in northern Spain. But that is their next declaration of war, as they declare war on Spain and begin their invasion through the mountains. Although they mostly focus on pushing down the coast of Catalonia, as it is a semi-rebellious region, with the people not rising against them, but the people are supplying France in the invasion. So it's still easier to invade. With that, they capture Barcelona and begin to push down the coast. They also begin to push down their Atlantic coast and the Mediterranean coast even more. They capture the Balearic Islands in one swift attack, encircle about half of Catalonia. The region falls. yeah, Spain. At this point, Italy was probably their hardest challenge just because it was when they were at their weakest against a strong country. And Spain isn't going to be much worse, so yeah, let me just show it in stages. This is after 1 month of fighting. This is after 2 months of fighting. Wait. This is after 2 months of fighting. Then you can see what happened after 3 months of fighting. Huge changes there. And by the 4th month, Spain has surrendered and France has won. With that, they actually decide to do some things, giving multiple regions their independence. I can't name them all, that would take forever, but I'm just gonna say, yeah, that multiple regions got their independence. It will probably include Catalonia in real life, but France wanted to annex the land for themselves, so Catalonia wasn't given independence. Alright, there we go. With Spain fragmented, France takes some of the northern lands and are now finally ready to win a new war that will hopefully not be 100 years. If you know what country I'm talking about, which you probably do, it's the United Kingdom. If you didn't know, in the past, these countries have fought a lot against each other and together, but I think it's about time we put an end to that rivalry and show the UK who the real strongest country here is. With that, France declares war, and they begin their invasion by making a naval landing in Cornwall. They begin to push out, pushing up into Wales, which is much less defended than England. They then push around the coast until they actually make a deal with Ireland, their first other country helping them out, where Ireland gets Northern Ireland and they help them out in the war. With that, the UK just retreats all troops out of Northern Ireland. They would rather protect, like, as I said, the UK, they're sending a lot of troops into, like, the London region, maybe some up here into, like, Newcastle. Liverpool has fallen at this point, so the UK is losing cities fast. Once again, can't name all of them, no time. But we see some Scottish rebels rise up, more in the north, further away from Britain, leading to less control over the region. With that, France is able to continue with their invasion, as the UK has multiple fronts to worry about. They manage to protect London, but all of the southern UK is encircled, and a stalemate is brought upon. With that, they begin to hold the front until they continue their invasion about a month later. And that is just connecting up with Scotland, taking London, and the UK surrenders. With that, we see a few things happening, with Scotland getting its independence. France annexes all of Britain and Wales, and Ireland annexes Northern Ireland. With that, Ireland is also now a French ally, so Scotland and all of the territories they released from Spain, along with Spain itself. They are all allies who will help them in a war, but aren't technically forced to. Although at this point, I doubt this French superpower could be losing a war, especially with the help of its puppets. So where do they go next? Well, their European expansion is just about done. They have a lot of land in the continent. Probably not the biggest, that would still go to Russia, but they're the second ahead of Ukraine now. With that, they begin their colonization by declaring war on Algeria. And this is where you could say, this might happen, this might not happen, but we see a lot of the Islamic and Arab League countries join in. I know Arab League wouldn't join in by like a necessity, but a lot of these countries would want to help out Algeria in a war. With that, just a bunch of countries joining in on this side of Algeria. Saudi Arabia, that's a bit more stretched, but no, actually, let's just leave it at this and begin the war. So, French troops already ready to make their landing, begin planning for their first invasion in northern Algeria. They make a landing off of Sardinia, and begin to push around the coast. If you didn't know, all of this is desert, so France is going to be going mostly for the coast and trying to make peace with some of these more southern countries that they don't want to get to. With that, they continue this front across Tunisia, capturing Tunis and pushing around the coastline. With this, Tunisia is actually the first to start losing a lot of land, with the majority of the country falling to France, while French troops begin to push into Libya as well. They continue their campaign into Algeria, capturing a good portion of the coast. With that, they push for Algiers, capture the city, and all of the Algerian coast falls. France pushes out a bit more inland until eventually they've reached pure desert, which probably started a bit sooner, but there could have still been some settlements there. And at this point, Algeria surrendered. This is other countries' troops keeping them alive, same with Tunisia. With that, technically Algeria surrenders, but the blue team manages to push back into a lot of the area before France gains control over it fully. With that, France continues to push into Tunisia, intending to capture the entirety of the country, and seeing Algeria as a win, they begin to go for Libya. At this point, though, they are already trying to make a deal with Egypt, who basically just says, yeah, opt out, I won't kill you. Egypt, Sudan, and Eritrea all agree, but the rest of these countries stay in. So France, let's say they're going to do some messed up things here. They get Morocco on their side originally, which brings Western Sahara into the war. With that, they can easily push into Mauritania and Mali. They begin to push down Morocco already has control of a lot of Western Saharan land. That is, if you even recognize Western Sahara as a country. So, France just continues to push out from that. They establish control over all of Western Sahara and begin to push out from Morocco. Now, currently this is all just desert, but it will expand into a much better front soon. France begins to help out Morocco to push down the coastline of Mauritania, who really wasn't expecting this. But after a good portion of land had been captured, France backstabs Morocco, declares war on the country, and with most Moroccan troops being in the south helping France, the country won't stand a chance at all. Seeing as about 70% of its military isn't even close by to help at all, this is a huge wipeout. Morocco is completely betrayed. The world says France, you're a bad person, and France doesn't care. With that, Mauritania falls, with the blue team beginning to push back into it as much as they can, and France begins to push down south into the more populated parts of Mali, let's say, in their southern portions. With that, they encircle it and capture the region, and are forced to basically just push along the easier to push along regions of southern Mali into southern Niger, where they capture, once again, all of their more populated regions, having to move across the border with Nigeria, until eventually both countries fall, and Libya is the last one left, who retreats troops out of any other country to attempt to save themselves. But honestly, it's not going to work. It's Libya against an overpowered France, and after pushing around the coastline a tiny bit, not even that much, Libya surrenders. With that, France just says, I beat all of you, so I get all of you, and they annex every single country they attacked. After this, France... Okay, the question becomes, are they the most populated? Are they the largest? Are they the most powerful? I'd say they have the most military personnel. Economy-wise, the USA is still stronger, but they're close. And size-wise, they're still behind Russia, but ahead of Canada. Just guesses, I haven't actually checked this. No, actually, I'd say they're still behind Canada. Are they behind the USA, though? That I cannot tell you. To find stuff like that, you literally have to put in every single country they have now taken over, take into account all equipment and manpower lost to the wars, and take into consideration the time that has passed, which is now at about I'd say 2026 to 2027, which actually means Bougainville is almost independent, but small event in the French Empire, yeah, it's not going to matter for France. With that, they declare war on a few more African nations, including Chad, Cameroon, the Central African Republic, Gabon, the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Burkina Faso, Senegal, the Gambia, just a bunch of these weaker countries. They decide not to declare war on Nigeria, as that would just be a lot of guerrilla warfare, which they don't really have jungles, but with the high population, Nigeria would be annoying to say the least. With that, they actually decide to make an alliance with Nigeria, in which they gain some land in return for their help in the region, as this is kind of rebellious and doesn't want to help France. But with Nigeria as an ally, they could more easily push into surrounding neighbors. With that, France and Nigeria begin their sweeping campaign into all these countries, with France taking out Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, and Guinea within the first month. Sierra Leone and Liberia follow suit, and Burkina Faso falls as well. Ivory Coast and Ghana try and fight, but Nigerian troops are beginning to push into Togo and Benin as well, with Ghana falling and the Ivory Coast soon after. French troops begin to push into northern Chad, but this isn't very important land, as it's mostly just desert, and Nigerian troops begin to push into Cameroon along with French aid. With that, Cameroon surrenders. A push into southern Chad is made. They're cut off from their allies. Chad surrenders, leading to all of their land falling. The CAR, Central African Republic, doesn't stand a chance here. And honestly, the blue team just doesn't want to kill themselves, so they accept a French peace treaty in which they all just get annexed either by France or Nigeria. No borders are going to be drawn. It's just Nigeria taking Togo and France taking the rest of Africa. Nigeria wanted more, but honestly, I said before that France didn't want to fight Nigeria, but they could definitely do it if they felt like it. They would rather have them as an ally in the region, but I don't think anyone wants to fight this new France. Okay, let's just finish drawing this in. Once again, France just annexing all these countries that they're beating and bullying anyone that they work with into giving them more land than they deserve. So yeah, I don't know if I like how the borders look. Normally there were a few spotches that gave it more, I want to say more depth, but it also gave it more border gore, so I'm not sure if this is better or worse. But hey, if you want to see borders redrawn of continents after doing the states, just go ahead, comment down below. That is if you're still watching. And yeah, this is just going to make France an insanely powerful nation. And I'm going to give them 2 more wars in this video. Which one of those is going to be very, very quick. If you didn't know, even in real life, France has control over French Guiana, which is in South America. Which actually, if you didn't know, France's longest border isn't with Spain, not with Germany, not with Italy. It's actually with Brazil in French Guiana. Which kind of sounds wrong, France having their longest border with Brazil. But it's true. So who will France be attacking next? Just Suriname and Guyana. Practically all of my empires do this. It's an easy region to invade, and both countries fall like within a few months. I don't even know if they would try and fight, knowing they would lose. They'd just lose manpower and equipment. Once again, their people would die for no reason, and everyone knows France is just going to win this. If you're wondering why they would do this and why they aren't taking back Haiti and stuff, it's just because they wanted somewhat of a foothold in the Americas, but they don't actually care about getting colonies there. Just having some control in other continents would be good. And to end off that control in other continents, they declare war on Vietnam, Cambodia, Laos, the Philippines, give me a second, and the Philippines, to gain some control in Asia and close to Oceania. In real life, they already controlled Vietnam, Laos, and Cambodia, But in this scenario, they're adding in the Philippines to have a few more naval areas to work with. Their first landing is on the southern island of the Philippines, making a deal with Malaysia, where France doesn't invade them, and in return, Malaysia grants them access to their ports and access to stationing their military in the country. With that, France begins to breeze over the Philippines, capturing the country. They then make a landing in southern Vietnam, capture Cambodia. All of southern Vietnam falls. Laos doesn't really stand a chance. This is mostly Vietnamese troops. Honestly, guerrilla warfare would be bad, but France would just keep fighting. Losses would be in favor of the blue team, but the victor would most definitely be France. With that, all these countries are next, and the French Empire is pretty much done. Once again, I don't know their exact stats because of too many factors that could play out in the world from now until their empire is finished. But it is pretty dang powerful. In size, is it the largest country? Is it the largest country? They have a huge portion of Africa and a good portion of the rest of the world. But I do hope you guys enjoyed. So I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.